Hey guys, did you hear the news? Donald Trump is actually pushing for Bible literacy in school. Now, when I first heard this, I was ecstatic. I believe that everybody should be studying the Bible to some degree, whether they get the instruction from their parents or a qualified teacher. Now, let me actually read the quote. The quote says, from Donald Trump says, numerous states introducing Bible literacy classes, giving the option of studying the Bible. Starting to make a turn back? Great. All right, here's my first article. I'm going to try not to read all of it, but we'll see how it goes. It says, President Trump backs push for Bible classes in U.S. schools. It says, should the Bible be studied in public schools is a question that strikes a lot of controversies. This year, several states are pushing for Bible literacy bills to go into effect, and President Donald Trump has tweeted his support for them. On Monday morning, President Trump tweeted his support of the bills seeking Bible literacy. And that's the quote that I quoted earlier. It says, numerous states introducing Bible literacy classes, giving students the option of studying the Bible. Starting to make a turn back? Great. It says Florida, Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Virginia, and West Virginia are seeking Bible study classes, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. USA Today reports the proposals would require or encourage public schools to offer elective classes on the Bible, with a focus on its historical significance. However, some critics argue that the classes will violate the constitutional separation between church and state, according to USA Today. Now, it all sounds good, but here's the problem. The curriculum that they're going to teach is going to be a modernized version of the plantation Christianity they gave us during slavery, and I'm going to prove that. All right, this is something I kind of stumbled across. This is from a book called Slavery and Conversion in the American Colonies. It's on page 511. The author is Marcus W. Jernigan. And it says, the Church of England did not raise the question of the right of its members to hold slaves, and denied that there was any inconsistency between Christianity and slavery, and made no effort to emancipate Negroes because of religious scruples. Indeed, the Bishop of London had declared in 1727 that Christianity did not make the least alteration in civil property, and that the freedom which Christianity gives is a freedom from the bondage of sin and Satan, and from the dominion of those lusts and passions and inordinate desires. But as to their outward condition, they remained as before, even after baptism. This is talking about the Negroes. The clergy held slaves themselves, and the churches accepted them as a form of endowment. On the other hand, the Church of England made great efforts towards the conversion of slaves, favored formal religious instruction by both clergy and masters, and urged the clergy to persuade masters to allow their slaves to attend church, and baptized and admitted them as communicants. Now, upon reading this book, I ran across something that I found very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, but it appears certain that the great bulk of slaves neither attended church nor received religious instruction. A still smaller number were baptized and made communicants. On the whole, it appears that the sentiment of masters towards Christianization of slaves was distinctly hostile in about 1/3 of the parishes reported, hostile in their remainder for the imported Negroes and those who understood little English, and favorable for a few of their slaves who they thought might profit thereby. A petition from various persons urging the Christianization of the Negro children born in this country was presented to the House of Burgesses in 1723, but the report of the committee to whom it was referred reads, resolved that the same be rejected, being at present impracticable. All right, what I just read pretty much just showed y'all the slave masters, the overwhelming majority of them, did not want y'all to be brought up into Christianity, right? That's something that's totally different from the things that we learned growing up. They tell you that a whole bunch of people got on a boat and made Christians out of everybody. That wasn't the case. Long story short, what I was just reading saying that if you didn't understand English at the least bit, they didn't think it was going to be profitable for you. So they didn't try to use Christianity as a means to convert you. All right, this is the dagger right here. This is the main dagger as to why the ones that actually did go out and convert Negroes and Native Americans to Christianity, this is why. Okay, I'm going to start with the first paragraph. It says, but much greater progress could undoubtedly have been made but for the low state of religion among the masters and the positive hostility to conversion of the slaves on the part of a large number of them. One of the chief reasons for this opposition seems to have been economic in character. Thus, one can understand how ideals growing out of a desire for material gain triumph, for the most part, over those religious and moral in character. In explanation of this economic reason, it must be recognized that many were convinced that the conversion of slaves would inevitably lead to increased demands from the Negro for equality, religious, social, and political. A situation that would not only reduce the economic value of the slave, but might seriously endanger those conventions between master and slave which were deemed necessary for effective control. So it's telling you right there that if they would actually read this Bible and taught it the way it was supposed to be taught, that these people was going to wake up. That is a dagger. Right? And it says, thus, fundamentally, the contest between the opposing forces involved, in the opinion of many, the life of the institution of slavery itself, and perhaps the very existence of Southern society so far as it was based on this system. All right, so we found out that it wasn't that many slaves that were actually converted to Christianity, right? But the thing is, let's look at the ones that did. This is an article from theroot.com. It says Slave Bible converted slaves to Christianity, but omitting parts that could lead to uprising. Very interesting article. It says a new exhibit at a Washington, D.C. museum featuring an abridged version of the Bible sheds light on how Christian missionaries converted enslaved Africans to Christianity by teaching them the gospel, except the parts about freedom, equality, and resistance. According to NPR, parts of the Holy Bible selected for the use of the Negro slaves in the British West India Islands is on display at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., and is one of only 3 known copies of this abridged version of the King James Bible, printed by the Missionary Society for the Conversion of Negro Slaves. The text of the Bible was used by missionaries from England to convert slaves to Christianity. Here's a post. It says, Artifact of the Day, parts of the Holy Bible selected for the use of the Negro slaves, a.k.a. Slave Bible, 1808. Now, the text that I was reading was from 1727. Okay, it says, though called holy, it is deeply manipulative. Based on the KJV, it omits all entries that express themes of freedom. The book is basically the enslavers' extended remix of the King James Version of the Bible, leaving out all that unnecessary junk that might lead slaves to turn on their masters. For instance, Moses doesn't even exist until he is an old man in the Slave Bible. Wow. You'll see a jump from Genesis 45, and they've cut out all the material to Exodus 19. Says Anthony Schmidt, Associate Curator of Bible and Religion in America at the museum. What they've cut out is the story of the Israelites in captivity in Egypt and their eventual liberation and journey to the Promised Land. The censored version removed 90% of the Old Testament and 50% of the New Testament, eliminating potentially seditious passages such as Exodus 21:16, which reads, And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. However, the curators of the Slavery Bible did keep some passages that they thought were necessary for slaves, including Ephesians 6 and 5. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of your heart as unto Christ. The Missionary Society for the Conversion of Negro Slaves was a group of missionaries that was formed in 1794. The society's original intent was to convert Native Americans to Christ, but the group began to focus on enslaved Africans after the American Revolution. The extremely rare artifact is on loan from Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, which has housed the Slave Bible in their special collection for more than 50 years. The only other known copies of the artifact are in the United Kingdom. Go figure. All right, so I gave you all the historical context of what was happening, you know, and what they did with our book. They did not give us the whole understanding of the scriptures. They did not give us the whole scriptures. Because as we just read, that if we would have got the whole book, that book was our key, so to speak, to open up the door to equality. They would have realized that what they were doing to us in slavery was not correct. That book, a lot of people like to say that it enslaves us. No, what they were showing, and what I just read out of their book, was just telling you that the Bible can be used as a tool to unlock your mind. And for my Israelite brothers that's in the truth, you know, training their kids up in the way they should go, so when they're old, they won't depart from it. It's going to be difficult if you actually send your kids back to public school and they're actually teaching this plantation Christianity to your kids. But I want you to teach them one thing, right? This is Philippians chapter 1. We're going to start at verse 15. It says, some indeed preach Christ, even of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. The one preach Christ of contention, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my bonds, but the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. What then? Notwithstanding, every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is preached, and I therein do rejoice, and will rejoice. So just keep that in mind, and it should be able to help you deal with the issue. All right, y'all, I want to end on this note. There's a pretty funny quote by John Fugelsang. It says that the only reason you're president, speaking of Trump, is that 6.2 million self-described Christians were completely illiterate about Jesus' teachings. With that, shalom.